this is a story that I was telling that is supposed to be universal. You know, it's supposed to be something that you see the film and you could be a black person, you could be a Mexican person, you could be a Muslim, you could be Jewish even, and you could see it and you can feel like this is an individual and he's being blamed for the stereotype.
Welcome to Director's Notes.
Thank you.
No, I'll let you take the floor. And if you don't mind introducing yourself and the film that we're going to be talking about.
Absolutely. So my name is Meyer Levinson-Blount. I'm a film student at Tel Aviv University and I'm on my fourth year. We're going to be talking about Butcher Stain, which is my debut film. It's my first film. And it's a film that I made in my second year of studies. So it's my intermediate film. And it's a film about Samir, a Palestinian butcher who is accused of tearing down the hostage posters in the break room. And Samir needs to prove his innocence in order to keep his employment. And it's sort of this human story uh, about controversial issues and issues that are talked about a lot, and sort of trying to take that human angle on it.
Yeah, because you're telling sort of what a lot of people would consider a political story, in sort of a very political environment, which is brave for your first film. So I congratulate you for that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean it's gotten some negative feedback. It's gotten some positive feedback. The negative feedback is usually about the premise. It's not about the film itself.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that as filmmakers, it's really important that we tell our truth when we make films, and it's important that we uh, don't aren't afraid of talking about controversial issues. But at the same time, it's also important to be sensitive, and it's
Mm.
important to not just enrage and provoke people to argue. And so this film is really it's about controversial issues, but it's about talking about it from the human angle of it, about
Yeah.
an individual who is accused of something that he didn't do and has to prove his innocence in order to keep his job that he desperately needs because it's he's being paid minimum wage. He doesn't have a lot of money,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's something that we can all connect to.
Absolutely. And I know that sort of this came from your time. You were inspired from your own time working in a supermarket.
Yeah, so
How do
I
you
worked
sort
at
of,
this.
yeah, you go from that to, right, I work in a supermarket, here I've got a film.
I worked at the supermarket after my first year of studies, film studies. Um, So the year ended, and then there was the 7th of October, and then everything closed down, and there was no school, there was no, there a lot of things weren't working. And one of the places that was open was the supermarket. So I went to work at the supermarket, uh, and that was right after, that was like a month after the attacks. So my experience in the supermarket was sort of, I felt the collective trauma of those events on the people that were working there. A lot of people had lost children or cousins or friends in the attacks at the music festival and in different towns. Um, and at the same time, I saw that that collective trauma was pointed to the Arab or the Palestinians within Israel within the supermarket. So I saw that they were excluded and not talked to. And I felt that there was this sort of racism and discrimination. And I wanted to talk about those two issues at the same time. I wanted to talk about the collective trauma, but I also wanted to talk about the effects that it has and how it affects individuals. And this is a story that some people, when they watch it, they didn't really think of that angle of it. Like, how do Palestinians within Israel feel when they are excluded from anything or they are discriminated against on because of what happened and because they're viewed as a part of what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely sort of a point of view that I've not come across before. But as you said, you're telling it from a man who's trying to earn a wage so he can, look after his family, his child. I wanted to ask about the title. So, I'm always interested in titles and how they translate and how they can mean different things. And when I was researching the film, I couldn't find anything about Butcher's Stain. So I thought I'd ask you and where that came from and the meaning of it.
So, the metaphor of a butcher is at the center of the film,
Yeah.
and it has to do with society's way of seeing someone as violent, I think. And so essentially what he does is, throughout the film, he cuts meat, he cleans up, you know, residue from meat and stuff like that. And all that sort of with your eyes, you see something that is violent, as if, like it has that sort of look to it. But then you meet the character,
Mm.
and then you meet the person that he is, and the way that he acts with his son, and the way that he acts towards others, and the way that he speaks politely, and you understand that this person has nothing to do with the way that he is perceived. And so that's what the butcher part of that is. It's the butcher. It's the way that he's perceived, and then it's who he is,
Mm.
and it's sort of the contrast of that uh, relationship. And the stain is the stain of collective trauma.
Okay.
So the stain on everyone after the stain of those events
Mm.
that still remain in our society, and who is blamed for that stain? Who is blamed for the fact that it's still there, and that collective trauma still exists? And I feel like a lot of people who experience collective trauma like that tend to try to find someone to blame, you know, someone that they can blame that they see every day, not someone that's kilometers away that attacked. So in that sense, that's the meaning of Butcher Stain. It was a name that I came up with after a few other names came up, and I decided that that was the best one that suits the film.
Yeah. And does it work? Because we're operating in English and in Hebrew and in Arabic. Does it work across all three?
Well, yeah, it's basically the same. It's basically the same thing. I love that question, by the way, because I love when names have different meanings in different
Me
languages. But
too. I think like that's
yeah,
such a fascinating part of language.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, it has. I mean, it has the butcher and the stain, but it's also butcher's stain. It's like his
Yeah.
stain.
Yeah.
It belongs to him in
Yeah.
quotation marks. So I think that it's a sense that someone is putting on a weight on your shoulders. Someone is pushing the responsibility of events that had nothing to do with you. And I think that's something that is experienced by lots of different people around the world throughout all types of national crisis. I mean, we saw the racism towards Asian Americans during the coronavirus, and towards all sorts of other people during all times of national crisis. And I think it's really important to talk about the way that individuals have to live with, being blamed for something like that. Um, it just it just seems like an everyday person trying to just live their life. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, it seems obvious, talking to you that it's not fair, but to people who live their lives and don't have any connection to those communities, um, wouldn't necessarily even notice that it's happening.
Yeah.
And so that's what this film is about. It's about raising awareness for the fact that individuals have to take the blame for events that have nothing to do with them.
Yeah. And this is a mistake that, we keep on making as a society, as a world. You mentioned, the corona pandemic, and, this is a cyclical thing. When things happen, we find the need to blame somebody, to put it on someone, to put that stain on someone. And I think it's just very beautiful how you've put it onto a very current and, painful topic that's going on at the moment. Was this something sort of in your filmmaking? You're still a student, which I find phenomenal. Did you always know that you wanted to talk about a big issue?
I never know what I'm going to think of when I'm writing a script. I think that this was something that was really sitting on my heart, as we say in Hebrew, um, where I was thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
I see the way that people, I saw the rhetoric, and I just felt like this is a story that I was telling that is supposed to be universal. You know, it's supposed to be something that you see the film, and you could be a black person, you could be a Mexican person, you could be a Muslim, you could be Jewish even, and you could see it and you can feel like this is an individual and he's being blamed for the stereotype.
Yeah.
And so that's something that really sat with me and that I thought about a lot. And it seemed like this was a story in which people could probably connect with that, some smaller experience in order to understand the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I mean, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is something that is been going on for so many years, and it's everywhere on the news, and it just seems like it's such a big issue that, there's a lot of arguing and there's a lot of yelling back and forth, but there's not a lot of, actually trying to, have productive conversations and try to, talk to each other and respect and, in a respectful way. And so this film was like taking that on smaller proportions of that issue so that we can connect on the human level again.
Hmm.
Because on social media, I feel like we've lost that. You know,
Yeah.
we've lost that ability to like speak on the human level. We're just spewing whatever we think are facts.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no authenticity, with that anymore. And especially since you can't really tell what's real and what's not. That's adding a whole different angle to it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, bringing it down to film. And as you're still a student, I'm always interested in, the dynamic of how much the school helped with the production, because I imagine there was a lot involved. And these are things that you often learn working with a crew. So I'd love to know the involvement with the school and how it shaped the production of the film.
So the Steve Tisch School of Film and Television is a remarkable school. It's really I the story is that I was working as like an English tutor, and I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. And then 3 days before school started, I called them up and I'm like, I want really want to study there, and like, is there something we can do? And I did all the paperwork, and I was able to get in that year, and
And
that
that's
was
a real
probably
story.
yeah, and
Okay.
that was the best decision that I've ever made.
Yeah.
It's such a first of all, the professors, Israel is a very small country, so all the professors are big names in the industry,
Mm.
but they also have a very hands-on way of doing things. So they help you with your personal projects, uh, and they adhere to your personal needs and your personal style and cinematic style.
Yeah.
And so I made a political film. Somebody else is making a sci-fi film, and somebody else is making a rom-com, and we're all in the same class, and everyone's helping each other, and everyone is getting help from the professors.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, even within my team, so Oron Caspi, the producer of this film, I mean, he's into genre filmmaking, so he's into sci-fis and all and uh, all types of stuff that I'm not necessarily into, but we work together because that's the environment. And I help him with his films, and he helps with me with my films. And I think it's just like it's such an amazing community, a creative community that of people that really just want to help each other in order to help make your vision
Yeah.
happen. So I think that's yeah.
Yeah. No, there's it's amazing, and I think I speak to a lot of filmmakers, and a lot of relationships they start at film school, at university level. I mean, I think when you're privileged enough to have that education, those are often the teams who you'll carry on with, which is always interesting. Okay, right, I'm gonna dig into the film now. Um, I loved the way you play with the camera really beautifully. So, it's a supermarket, everyone knows you kind of got small aisles, it's really tight. And alongside, you've got the big political discussion. It's a guy who's being accused of something. And I love, yeah, your camera work and all of your angles. So I'd love you to talk a bit about sort of building that suspense up and really putting us in that, sort of, yeah, the suspicion of it all.
Absolutely. So when I was working with Sefi Elisha Nahmani, who is the DOP, who is masterful in his work, and he's a really precise guy. It's really important for him to get things right, and to think about every single aspect of how things look. So when we were thinking about the film, I really wanted to close in on the character.
Mm.
I really wanted to feel like there isn't a lot of place to move. I mean, even when I send the film frames to people in different news medias or whatever, they're always like, "Why is it all close-ups? Like, do you have any long shots?" I'm like, "I don't know. I mean, I have one or two, but like not a lot." Because it felt after the 7th of October, it really felt like everything was closing in on our society. It just felt like everything was so like there was no oxygen. So I really wanted to capture that aspect of it. Another aspect is, of course, the POV. It's really for the whole entire film. There's only one moment in the film where it's not really his POV, where it's actually the character that I play has a moment in that one scene, but it's really like supposed to be his perspective on it, so we can feel like we're a part of his journey, and kind of connect with the experience of the Palestinians within Israel. And I think the third thing that dictated how we film this film is the suspicion you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of glancing. There's a lot of the way that people are looking at other people.
Mm.
And I tried to build like a language out of the way that people look at each other, even more than the dialogue that they're saying.
Yeah.
So that was the main things that dictated the cinematography language.
Yeah. I mean that definitely came across, and it's that accusatory, maybe it was them, and then you're questioning the way people are looking at you and what they're actually looking at. And obviously you kind of close it all off at the end, for us that all of these things don't matter. But all of that suspicion and all of sort of building up that tension, was that speaking a lot to the larger issue as well that you're talking about?
Absolutely. I think that it's a lot about suspicion, and and the suspicion kind of builds that tension between people.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I tried to do in this film is that you're supposed to suspect yourself, and
Mm.
then you're supposed to get something totally different. And that was the point. Like I was trying to get people to suspect that at some point, this guy or that guy or this happened or that happened. And what I did was, always convince you that something is going to happen, and then it doesn't happen. And that's what I think suspicion after collective trauma is.
Yeah.
It's you're in a state of fight or flight, and you suspect certain things, and there's no oxygen. So you feel like you need to always suspect. But in the end, there are serious victims of that kind of thing. There are people who are victims of everyday suspicion.
Hmm.
It's not just, being suspected of stealing at work, or someone following you here, or the police pulling you over, or whatever it is. It's not only that. It's like that stuff is like it's like walls in your life. And this is something that Omar Samir, the actor, has sort of like talked to me about. And I've experienced, his experience, because he's told me about it, and that also has a big part in the film.
Hmm.
Um, but as someone who is a Palestinian within Israel, these things are, they're like obstacles in the way of you just living a normal life.
Yeah.
If you're taking a trip, and this isn't just Palestinians within Israel, it's Muslims. If you're taking a trip, you might be stopped for an hour and a half at the airport. You might miss your flight. You might be, like if you're just going on a vacation, that's something that's very for individuals, and for me, that's not even like saying something political. That's just saying something about people. you know,
Yeah, that's just a
having to
fact.
deal with that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love sort of you're talking about, the suspicion and, him playing it off and how it's always there. And then we've got a moment where it all comes to a head. So you're playing Nia. Is that the right pronunciation?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's just this amazing moment where all of that suspicion, all of that anger suddenly starts to escalate. And so I'd love to know more about that scene and sort of why we wanted it all, because it almost explodes, but not quite.
Exactly. I mean, that scene is where he confronts my character for lying. And that's a scene that is basically what the story builds up to do. Because if you're connected with the main character and what he's going through, at some point you start getting very angry
Mm,
with all the different, again, obstacles. Like he can't live his life normally, and everything's closing in on him, and then suddenly the person that he trusts is lying about him, and he has to figure out like what do I do? And in the end, his emotions take over, of course, which is the human thing.
yeah.
And he's just extremely hurt, and he's yelling at him because he's so hurt with what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that that was about him confronting me. And then what happens directly afterwards is that he's essentially let go.
Mm,
And that was my way of showing the viewer why he hasn't been getting angry at everyone this whole entire film. Like you might ask yourself throughout the first part of the film, why isn't he yelling at people? Why isn't he saying why isn't he arguing back? Why isn't he trying to be like, you can't do this to me? Like you don't have any camera surveillance, you can't do this, like, whatever it is. And then you understand why.
mm,
Because the second that he's actually confronting, the second that he's actually yelling back, he's immediately viewed as dangerous.
yeah.
And that's the kind of experience that they have. And that's why it's hard to speak up when you're a part of that community against people who are doing or are putting you into those positions, because you're always in this sort of spot where you can be fired or you could be let go, or it's a very sensitive position.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, it's and you can see sort of his performance is brilliant because I can tell that he wants to be louder, he wants to explode more. But I guess if you're just dealing with a system all the time that tells you that you can't be loud, you can't speak up, you can't express yourself, then that's really going to come through. And I think you directed that, and that performance comes through really brilliantly.
thank you.
Mm. What about his family? I'd love to know sort of what role they play. Well, his son and, his ex-partner. Because I think there's lots of kind of different ways that we need them as relief and as a sort of different breath from what's going on.
Yeah, so his family was something that is it's almost like uh, it's something that I put in the film that some of the professors liked, some of the professors didn't, some of the students liked, some of the students didn't. It was like this thing that people were torn about. And I wrote it into the script originally. It wasn't something that I added in. Um, and I decided to keep it in for the reason because I felt that this is the whole point. The whole point is that he isn't necessarily he isn't just an Arab or a Palestinian. He is actually just an individual. Like
Mm,
this is Samir.
yeah,
This isn't this isn't an Arab or a Palestinian. This is Samir. And so I didn't want him to be only represented by the discrimination against him. Like that's an important thing to say. Like it shouldn't be a film only about the discrimination that he's facing. It should be a film about him and his life and the life that he lives.
yeah,
And so I wanted to portray that in order to show you that he's dealing with a complicated family situation that all of us know from close up. I mean, almost everyone knows someone who was divorced or is divorced or or whatever it is, and that complicated family situation is a way of connecting to him on a personal level,
Yeah.
and understanding that he's just an individual. Like he lives a whole life of outside of the storyline where he's being discriminated against,
Yeah.
but it has a direct effect on that. The tension between him and his ex-wife is it rises throughout the conflict that he faces, because it's also connected in a lot of ways, personal life and something like this being discriminated against.
Yeah.
So that's the main reasoning why I put it in.
Yeah. So for those, who when you were running this past them, who were against you having the family, why did they feel that they didn't add anything?
I think that there's a lot of people think that short films should be very focused. Um, you're only watching a 20-minute, 25-minute, 15-minute, whatever it is, film. It should be, one place. It shouldn't be running too long in terms of the amount of time within the film. And I think for the most part, they're right. I mean, you should be focused when you're making a short film. It's not a feature where you can have a million different plot lines and tell a whole story. But for me, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to tell the story the way that I saw it, happening. And so when making the film, I actually felt that I didn't even want to end it in like the perfect place. You know what I mean? Like the posters are falling, and he's looking at them, and it's this moment, and I can end the film there, but I want to drag it on a little bit. I want to show you how it's sort of like doesn't stop abruptly. It sort of like comes to a stop, slowly but surely. He goes, he stands in front of all the workers, and then he meets his family one last time, and he gets his son, and he's at the hamburger, and he's at the hamburger restaurant or whatever, and he's sitting there with his son, and that's where the film ends.
Yeah.
I wanted to have that realism of like, you know, the way real events kind of drag on in real life. Um, and I think that that's like a um, kind of the way that I view cinema.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I can see how the film could totally exist without them and without them sort of being there. But I think it was just, it's as you said, it's bringing that human story. And then at the end of the day, he's a guy who needs his wage. So, he can have his son more and spend more time with his family. And it's part of the whole, scenario that you're putting forward to us. So yeah, I think that the addition of the family, I liked it. I needed it. I'd love to sort of talk more about practicalities because you are not shooting this in a lovely studio in LA where everything is calm. I can imagine there are a lot of breaks in production. I'd love to know what it's like and sort of your experience of filming whilst there's a war going on.
Yes, so we filmed in 2024. So that was a year after the break of the war.
Yeah,
Um, and there was also the Iranians. The Iranians were attacking here with missiles, so we had to stop production at some point with that. It's always happening here in Israel. It's a reality. It's a very it's a hard reality to live in. It's a hard reality to bring children into, and that's stuff that I think about all the time. But on a practical level, um, we're against all odds anyway
mm,
in a student production. I mean, I come from a religious background. I studied at a yeshiva high school, and I mean, I prayed every single day of that production. I woke up early and I prayed because I knew that it's supernatural. It's what it is. It's making a film with that kind of money, with that
yeah,
kind of budget. Uh, the actor could be sick, and your film is over. You can't film, like, you don't have the money to do another day.
yeah,
Um, People could get stuck in traffic for 2 hours, and you wouldn't be able to do anything about it, and you'd have to cancel the whole shoot. There's so many things that could have happened, but my team was extremely passionate. Other than me, Oron Kaspi is my producer. I've been working with him for a while. This was his first professional film that he, not professional student, but this is his first. This is our first
Okay.
film that we have like real crew members and stuff like that. So um, he's a very resourceful person. He's a person that knows how to get things for free. He was making calls to everyone 24/7. One of the supermarket scenes that are within the supermarket itself, we found a supermarket that would that let us do it for free. From the hour 10 at night to 4 in the morning, we had 6 hours. Super, 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 super tight.
Yeah.
Um, we were the DOP was taping. We didn't have enough money for lighting, so the DOP was taping like black pieces of paper onto the lights to sort of like make this sort of like contrast on the
Of
face. And of course, you don't notice it when you're watching the film. You're like, this is professional lighting.
course.
But yeah, that's what we were working with. Like we were working with some gaffer and and some tape and some pieces of paper and we were working with all the the gear that we got from the university, but sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes other people have that gear.
Yeah.
So it's all one big miracle, but it's also not a miracle when you have such a talented and passionate um, team. And a film is something that you do together. That's what they always say, and it's totally true.
Oh, very much so. I want to go back to language. So we sort of began with it and talking about the title. So you've got, different actors, we've got different languages. You're directing in a language that's not your first language. Am I right in saying? How does that how does that work? How do you know that your vision, that your directorial vision is being conveyed correctly? And also, how do the other influences come in? Because I just think it's such an interesting melting pot.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually grew up in New York, so my native language is English.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell
And
by speaking.
but yeah, I speak Hebrew also. So it's even like directing in Hebrew is not necessarily in my first language, and
Mm.
then directing in Arabic, it's like I don't understand anything. But the main actor, Omar Samir,
Yeah.
is also happens to also be a director himself, happens to be a screenwriter himself. And so, first of all, the work with him is just so professional, and he's so patient, and it was so easy to work with him. But in those scenes in Arabic, I sort of gave him the ability to. He didn't direct, I directed in terms of the emotional, conveying, the emotions within the scene and the mise en scène. But he was making sure that no one was making mistakes. So he
Okay.
was making sure that no one was making mistakes, and he'd also say like, "Listen, we should do another take." Like that
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily. I would do it a little bit different. So I had 100% trust in him, and that was part of the reason why this was like that those scenes were able to happen because the Arab actors, you know, took the scene into their own hands. Sometimes they added lines, sometimes they didn't say certain lines, but I had a lot of trust in them.
Yeah. Were there sort of were there moments where you felt that there was something you wanted to say that you couldn't in the language that you needed to say it?
Well, I mean, they all speak Hebrew, so I was able to kind of instruct all of them
Okay.
also.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'd say that's to take that into a broader question. Uh, Making a film about the Palestinian within Israel community is a challenge. Being someone who isn't a Palestinian within
Uh-huh.
Israel, and that is something that we were able to overcome because I was working with them and they were able to explain things to me and we were able to get the little details right. And we did screen it in Al Fahim, which is a Palestinian town within Israel, and the reactions were very good. So I think that the connection with them and being able to connect with that community through the actors that were acting in the film and being dynamic and being open to them adding things that they think were necessary within the dialogue uh, was a significant thing in creating an authentic experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it speaks, I guess, and it's a louder sort of theme of communication. And, I think there's a lot in this film that could have been solved with some communication in the beginning. Which I guess,
Absolutely, yeah,
yeah, which I guess speaks to a lot of wider things. So this film was made as your second year project.
yeah.
So,
The end of yeah.
okay, so what have you been working on since, and what are you working on now?
So I'm working on a feature film. It's still in the works.
You're
You
launching
know,
straight into a feature.
I mean, here's the thing: when you get to a a ceremony in Hollywood, I don't think a lot of people. The main opportunity here is to do a longer film, a professional film that gets funding. So that's what I'm working on right now. But yeah, I mean, I was about to start a new film, and then every single time we keep on going farther with this film, and you realize that you have sort of like a stock that is going up,
Yeah.
and you realize that you should put all your money there for now, and then later you can do other things. So we've been putting like a lot of work in campaigning and promoting this film, and we've gotten very far with it. But of course, sometimes when you're just all day promoting the film and campaigning for the film, it's like you forget like that you're doing this for writing and sitting in a room with a cup of coffee and and thinking about ideas. So I really want to get back to that.
Yeah.
But this is also exciting. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a dual-edged sword. And I was just earlier talking to another one of the directors and sort of saying to him that after campaigning, you get to go back to filmmaking, which is, what you want to do.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, right. Now I'm going to throw you off. And I'm asking all of my filmmakers this. I have got the best list of recommendations, but I want from you your favorite short or shorts. They can be ones you've seen recently, they can be ones that have sat with you forever, and just sort of a little reason why.
Short films.
Yeah,
Oh, that
we're
is
all
such a
about
great
short
question.
films.
That is such a great question. But yes, you have thrown me off. I'm gonna have to think for a second.
That's okay. I can
There's a
edit as well,
few.
so if you need to think, you go ahead.
I mean, there's a lot of good ones. You know what? The thing with the favorite question is I don't always have an answer to the favorite question, but I will say one that has stayed with me a lot
You know what? I
since I've seen
really,
it.
yeah, I never want to say favorite. I sort of more want to be like
Yes,
one that just pings into your mind now.
absolutely. So on the short list with me, who's a good friend of mine now, after the Student Academy Awards was Dad's Not Home,
Okay.
by Jan. And that is a film that has stayed with me ever since I've seen it. It's about a few two brothers who have a father that has dementia, and they have to act like he doesn't, and they have to answer phone calls for him, and act like everything's fine. But then when the teacher comes to their house, they realize that they're in jeopardy of maybe uh, going into foster care, which didn't seem like there was a proper system for that if they're that afraid of getting involved in that. So yeah, I mean that is definitely one of the examples of some short films that I've just been like, this is just an amazing, amazing, amazing filmmaking and cinematography. And it was definitely an honor to be with him at the Student Academy Awards and then on the short list.
Yeah. Nice. And then I guess just for you on a really human level, I mean, this being recognized at such a level at this point in your career, I mean, how does that feel?
So that question is a question that I get a lot, and I have to say that it's hard to feel when it's so big.
Okay.
obviously it's extremely exciting. It's extremely exciting getting compliments from everyone, but it's like it's you're in shock,
Yeah.
and it's so big, and it's so fast, and you're so busy that it's like you you have to like take everything in, and that takes time. And I think that my brain hasn't yet understood that's what happened. I was in for the past month when I was shortlisted. I was in like I was just waiting to get answers to if I was nominated. Like I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And even now, sometimes I wake up in the morning. I'm like, okay, a few more days and we'll know if we're nominated. And then I'm like, no, wait, we're nominated.
Yeah.
Like I have to remind myself that we're nominated because it's like still stuck in my brain. I mean, it's hard. It's a confusing thing, you know. Like it's everything you ever wanted, but also it's like it's you expect to feel a certain way, and then you feel just in shock, and it's all everything's very new to me, and it's a lot to take in. And so it's a journey, it's really it's like a roller coaster of emotions, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I guess that answer's gonna change and develop for you as well, as time goes on. But just huge congratulations.
Thank you so much.